Hey, Jack Lewis Evans, do you think we're going to make it to the studio on time?
I'm not sure, Sean Morley. There's a lot of bloody cyclists and pedestrians between us and there.
Yeah, you're right. It's not all bad. Look at how happy they are. Pedalling, playing with a stick.
Get out of the way, arsehole!
Jack, watch out. There's a zebra crossing. You've got to slow down for this steeple, Jack.
Mate, it's a pelican. It's a pelican crossing. Pelican, you speed up.
No, it's a zebra. Look, it's got the stripes. Jack, you have to slow down.
I'm flooring it.
Jack, no!
He wasn't looking where he was going.
Jack, you have summoned the filth. This is awful. Why couldn't we just take the recumbent bicycles like I suggested? We could go through the sewers in 5 minutes and we'll be there. Jack, are you listening?
Calm down, man. This is flooding the vibe. Let's get some tunes on.
Jack, if you would just listen to me for a moment, I would explain to you that all
Lads, exit the vehicle.
Okay, fun's over, buddy boy. They have barricaded the road. You have to admit now that this is a problem.
I'm rerouting.
Mate, this is not Green Hill Zone. We're zooming through a housing estate. You have got a terminal case of car brain.
Gotta go fast.
Look, you have all these roads for you to drive your car on. Is that not enough? Why do you need to go even faster?
Well, we gotta get to the studio on time. We gotta go.
What for? Why? Just to record the intro? All of this is so we can tell people they can support the podcast by visiting patreon.com/mandatory redistribution party to unlock extra content and mini episodes. Is that worth a steeple Jack's life to you?
You know what? I've heard that they're trying to put glue on all the roads to stop us going more than 15 minutes away from our houses. It's cheaper than walls.
Jack, you on the vapes again? You smell like WKD.
Right, get out then. Get out of the car. I'll see you in the studio when you get there. It's 10 hours after me.
Okay. Are you going to stop the car?
No.
Are you going to unlock the door?
No.
Then I'm stuck.
Yes.
I live in the Netherlands now.
What?
I live in the Netherlands now.
Wow. Right, okay.
I moved. Yeah.
Is that all right? How's that?
Yeah, it's going well. I've been here 5 months, I think.
Wow, right.
I mean, you already knew. I told you a long time ago. This is just
I'm
just setting up the episode and providing exposition.
I thought the listener might not know, so I was acting as an avatar.
Oh, yeah, but then I thought it would stretch their disbelief to think I've kept it from you for like half a year.
Oh, you didn't want me to, you didn't want to come across as a liar.
I didn't want it to come across that
Sean's
we weren't
trick
close
Jack.
friends.
Yeah.
That we've got some kind of distant, workplace relationship. We talk, we are friends.
I thought it was funny that you wouldn't have told me, and I wouldn't have noticed.
I'm just worried for the people where this is their first episode they listen to, maybe second, they're like, oh, these guys aren't very good friends.
Why are they making
I was thinking
podcast?
they wouldn't keep listening. I think the fact that we're good friends, we love each other, we've got a bond. I think that's what people like.
Yes.
And that bond will be strained because I now live in the Netherlands.
You're far away. And I'm far away from you. It's mutual.
Yeah, but it's my fault because I moved. You stay the same. You can't be blamed.
Netherlands, Holland, the Low Countries? Is the Low Countries?
Yes.
The Low Country or the Low Countries? Is that why it's the Netherlands?
The Low Countries is how it's translated. The
Netherlands means Low Countries.
Netherlands means Low Country. And in Dutch, it is Netherlands. Netherlands. Yeah. It's very wet. If anyone is a potted guide to the Netherlands, water is word number 1. And maybe words 1 through 5. It's very wet. Lots of water everywhere.
The sea is trying to reclaim it and the sky is collaborating.
The sky is like a spy for the sea.
Yeah.
It's not only looking in, it's like moving the sea in bit by bit. Stealth eviction. Because I thought it was all canals, right? The amount of water that had to be reclaimed from the sea became these canal channels. But there's just water that isn't a canal.
Right.
It's just collected in a place so that it's not on the ground so that people can live on the ground. A lot of them look like ditches. They're called sloats, or really sloten. We couldn't, because a massive housing crisis here. So we came to Amsterdam to find a place, did not find one, and then just had to leave again. And then returned to find the Queen had died.
That's really funny.
It was really funny to leave the country to look for a place, and then the Queen dies. And it was sort of surreal that obviously no one here is making a big deal of it. So you just know when you come home. And we were taking the Eurostar, so we were going to be in like London, St. Pancras, and that's where they were taking the coffin through. So it was going to go from like nothing to absolute bizarro world. Corpse worship. We couldn't see the place we're in now before we came here. And when we got here, there's this massive stretch of water. It's like the length of an Olympic swimming pool. And I was like, what's that? I'm like, that's a sloat. What does it do? The water is just there. That's what it's doing. What it's doing is that the water's not where the houses should be.
The Low Countries are so low that the sea wants it back, right?
It all was sea.
Yeah.
Most of this place was under the ocean.
Waterworld?
Kind of. And it's,
moved to
let me tell you, they're very, very worried about climate change here. it's like, so hugely important.
Well, it's a pressing material issue for us all, but like knock a few notches up on that, right?
Oh God, let me see if I can find it. So
are they in the same? Are they as worried as like Micronesia? You know, the sort of Pacific islands, which are literally sinking, like their country is disappearing now.
I mean, 100% not. Yeah. This is an ex-imperial power. It has the money to it has billions sunk into flood defences, and in fact. There was a thing where the UK government was asking about flood defences in Wales, and they got some quotes for some Dutch companies that have done the flood protections on the capital city and so on. Right. And they went, yeah, it'll be like $1 billion and so on. And the UK government went, no, never mind. Just let it sink.
The UK government is, their approach to floods is fucking unhinged. Like big concrete things for water to run off even faster, like cutting down trees so the water just rapidly
it wants the water to come down into Hebden Bridge like a gun. So the water is a big deal. As a result, I think there's way more green space, a lot more grass. I think because I think it's all about drainage again. It all comes back to water. The idea of the water reclamation, the dredging, the polders, which is the name of the land that's been reclaimed from the water. All that stuff has been like mythologized into being like the reason for everything in Dutch culture. Like the reason Dutch people are so blunt is because when you're dredging up the water, you can't talk unclearly and you can't do niceties. You've got to be like, we got to dredge this.
The sea is coming.
The sea is coming. There's no time to be like the British and say yes or we mean no. Just dredge. And there's something called the polder model, which is the Dutch model of consensus politics. Because during the mass unionization, the late 20th century, which the UK solved with just outright violence, the Netherlands came to more compromised positions with the big union. And they're saying, oh, that's the polder model, which is of consensus politics, which we can achieve because we all learned to be that way because we had to dredge the lands together. Everything comes back to the water. There's this.
So Thatcher was triumphant because of the lack of dredge culture.
Because there wasn't enough dredging. Yeah, the country was so dry they could enact more violence on the working class.
Makes sense.
As a result, I now see more herons than pigeons on an average day.
So a heron's like hanging out in large groups.
Herons don't hang out in large groups.
Yeah,
geese do.
Yeah.
So geese on the pavement is like a new phenomenon to deal with regularly. And geese at night going mad is a new issue. Mosquitoes all year long because of so much freestanding water. Mosquitoes in winter was a fascinating new discovery. Winter mozzies.
That's where they've go. That's where they've vanished to. The Netherlands.
Yeah. I don't think they migrate. They're off. They cross the channel.
I like the idea that they do. Yeah, there's a massive cloud of mozzies. They go with the geese. There's the geese and then there's mozzies.
Yeah, one big sphere all together. It looks like a bowling ball. What's that? What's that orb?
Oh, it's a mozzie ball.
There goes my blood. Yeah, it's very flat. Everyone cycles. They've got a racist Father Christmas tradition.
Oh, yes.
Where he's kind of got an indentured slaves type character.
Okay. And is that because of dredge culture?
That I have not yet been able to find the connection between that and dredge culture. I think that might actually have its roots in European imperialism.
Yes, that makes more sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But they like talking more about the water and the funny little canals. But they did. So as a result, no Indian food here because the British Raj was the British imperial.
What's the good food?
Indonesia was the colony here. So it's Indonesian food, and Indonesia's. It's been interesting learning about what modern day Indonesia is like because that's more of interest to Dutch liberals. To be like, oh, we ravaged Indonesia, so let's do tokenistic things while also setting up big businesses in Indonesia. Of course, the profits come back to the Netherlands. It's exactly the same thing.
European power, yeah.
It's just interesting seeing it. It's the stuff that I know from home, but the names have changed, Apparently one of the things they did was they actually tried to do canals in Indonesia and like cut these similar tunnels through like Jakarta and places like that. But obviously this is a tropical country. So those canals have become worse than mosquitoes, just breeding grounds for stuff, and anything that dies in there or falls in there, it just creates way more rot and pollution. So it just destroyed some of these cities. Yeah, horrible stuff. I think it's a lot harder to uncanal than it is to canal. So, I mean, a big part of it is that I think where I live now is much closer to a seat of imperial power than like the post-industrial north of England, which is sort of forgotten about by the centralised capital of the UK. Now I live in the wider metropolitan area of Amsterdam.
Right.
So I am the beneficiary of regional inequality rather than living in the forgotten wastelands.
You may as well have moved to London.
Well, I don't think
with
so.
Better cycle facilities.
I was going to say, because I've been to London plenty, and this actually does seem nicer than that. Like, I remember, because I've already travelled back to London and back. And so I had the experience. Well, yeah, I had the experience of like taking transport to the airport and then airport transport to London and then travelling through London to my destination. And so it does feel to a large degree, London doesn't actually care a lot about London either. And so the thing that I can experience the most clearly as an outsider, what do I know? My Dutch isn't very good. I don't know a tremendous amount of people.
Yeah.
I still look around at stuff with the same context-free, empty-eyed, glassy stare of a tourist. I don't really know the context of anything I look at. I go, that's a nice windmill, and so on. But the one thing you can notice really easily is how places are laid out and how you can get from one place to another is so markedly different to anything I've been used to. I feel like I can get anywhere else quite easily.
Sounds nice. That sounds good.
It is. The country is very small, and within that, it's got a much more robust transport infrastructure than it needs to. And it is continually reinvesting in it. The sheer amount of money that goes into
Imagine.
more cycling infrastructure. They're just spending like another 10 million euros of like Amsterdam public transport. Given that the transport is very good and relatively cheap, I don't think you could really meaningfully have a long distance relationship within the Netherlands.
What?
Because I don't think anyone could be far enough away.
What's like a travel time?
Oh, you can drive from basically anywhere to anyone else in like 3 or 4 hours. It's just not very big. It's just got a lot of landmass.
Give me public transport.
Oh, you don't want to hear this. This will make you upset.
I want
This will make you upset.
I want to be sad and angry, please.
Let me actually pull up.
Let's get empirical.
People have asked me this on Twitter. It's the one thing people want to know. They want to hear about the trains, and I'm like, this will upset you. And then I tell them, and they go, I'm upset. I go, well, don't shoot the messenger. The messenger is actively trying to withhold information.
Come on. Put the travel revolver to my forehead and pull the trigger.
If I wanted to go to Brussels, that would be 35 euros. But let's say I wanted to go to Berlin, which is about twice the distance from Manchester to London. So that will be a journey you're familiar with.
Yeah.
So if I went to go to Berlin, that's 55 euros.
I feel sick.
Can I tell you the kicker to that information? Those are the first class prices. There is a massive housing crisis here, and that has led to a big homelessness crisis. But just through my travels, rough sleeping either is incredibly well hidden or is much lower. The sheer amount of visible rough sleeping that is going on in the UK increased so much over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And so here it's kind of striking being in a capital city, and I'm not seeing sleeping bags in doorways. I'm not seeing signs of people sleeping outdoors. I'm sure there it means there's some centres, there's places, there's somewhere, but compare that to just these people have been left on the streets. Overall, it sounds good. I think definitely don't want to like fetishize any kind of milquetoast social European style social democracy.
Oh yeah, but like fucking yeah, exactly. Milquetoast European style social democracy is still fucking capitalism. And you're still, as you say, in the imperial core.
Yes, 100%.
There's no denying any of that. And a lot of these social policies will be possible because of that like imperial legacy and imperial present. But it's still better than...
It's still better, yeah. So I have this kind of back and forth talking to Dutch people where I'm saying, look, this element of your country is so much nicer and this thing's so much nicer. And they're like, yeah, we have real problems here. And I'm like, yeah, you do have real problems here. And I just tell them some things about the UK. I often go with water stuff because
getting dumped into rivers. That's an easy one for them to understand.
There's literally, I don't think they knew that we actually put human excrement in rivers, and there are no rivers in the UK currently that receive a clean bill of health. There are no clean rivers in the UK.
Most unclean water in Europe, right?
Or if not, we're second to Poland, maybe, but definitely like it's bad. I'm always worried I'm going to say something that's based on a very provisional understanding, and then later on realise this is nonsense.
But it's fine. We're not doing an empirical study here. We're talking about your personal experience.
We are. We're looking at just one guy with a limited understanding looking at an entire country through a single cardboard tube and going, this is what I happened to have seen.
Yeah.
The thing that is most interesting is just the design and layout of urban life here compared to, I mean, the bikes thing is so huge. Travelable city is clearly intensely important.
I hate riding around here. It's even when they make these multi-million pound cycle lanes, they are built in such a way in the UK that it's like, oh, here's sort of 60 meters of cycle path, but it is still beside a road that cars will randomly park in, and it will also just end.
Oh, and it will continue, but it will continue into a bin. It will continue into a lamppost. It will continue. Like, the lines will continue, but there is a bus stop there. Yeah. I tried biking in Sheffield for a while, and I just had too many positions where I was like, oh, that's dangerous. I'm just going to go onto the pavement. And then on the pavement, someone's like, what are you doing on the pavement? I'm like,
it's not safe for pedestrians.
I was in danger. I've moved over here and now...
Yeah.
And here, bike culture has not only just become prominent, but it's also like evolved. Do you know, like the idea of a soccer mom?
Yes.
There's something that's equivalent in the Netherlands, which is a boxfietsmoeder, which is there's a kind of bike that has a big box on it that you could put a child in.
Right.
And that's like the soccer mom here, is that they have the certain kind of bike to pick up their kids in.
Like a sidecar, or is it, where is the box?
No, it goes in front. It goes in front.
Goes in front. Right, cool.
Yeah. One thing they say is that riding in the back of a car actually sucks for a kid. They're not tall enough to see anything, and they don't see their local environment.
Yeah.
But being at the front of a bike with an unobstructed view of where the bike is going, it's fun. It's actually quite nice.
Yeah.
The largest amount of children I've seen being transported by one bike is, I believe, 8.
Fuck.
They had something that was a bit like a horse box attached to the front of a bike, and there was loads of children crammed in.
That must be hard to ride. Think of the weight distribution.
I think box feet, which is just a box bike, they are normally like got a bit of electricity powering as well, so that electricity assisted,
souped up,
yeah,
nitrous.
They can do loop-de-loops, hyper mode, whatever you want. They can go full wacky races if you've got the right gears installed.
Tony Hawk's Pro Childcare.
That would be good. Baby on a half pipe.
What's the best thing within 15 minutes of you?
Ooh, it's just probably one of the polders. I just really like these. I don't 100% know the status of them, but I think you can't build on them, so they're just wetlands. It's just for geese to lay eggs in. I love that stuff. I love a thing that you just cannot do anything with, but it's right next to everyone's houses, and we can just go and look at it. Class.
I love that shit. I got a good wind turbine, a little turbine.
Oh, that's nice.
And I like to look at it and imagine on the upsweep as it swings around. It's got two blades rather than a 3-blade. It's a 2-blade, and I like to imagine if I myself or a football or something was hit on the upsweep, how high and far it would go.
Oh, that's nice. It's just nice to imagine things, isn't it?
It's nice to imagine things. In
what
the
if
world.
this hit that? What would happen? What would happen if this fell over? It's great. This is the good stuff. It's like YouTube in your own head. It's just bite-sized, semi-pointless, keeps you going.
Mando's recommends thoughts.
Not just thoughts. Actually, I'd say, no, I'm actually not thoughts, just imagining. Most thoughts, actually.
Yes, a lot of thoughts
suck.
are bad. Yes, that's true.
But the thing that gets me about these little artifacts that get scattered in urban areas is that because urbanism is becoming completely normalized and I don't know what the stats say, but like urbanism is massively going up.
Lots of
soon,
people live
like
in cities, yes.
Well, most people in the world, I think, live in cities, and that figure's going to go up to like 70% of the world population will live in cities. This is why
people, the anti-towns agenda.
100%, because if you want a lot of economic activity going on, if you want a lot of people doing a lot of stuff in a place, it makes a lot of sense to put them all in the same place. You can maximize efficiency, you can lower energy wastage, and also it keeps the environment more safe because you're not casting a lot of your roads down it. You're not having to build all over and use up all of the space if you concentrate the locations where everyone lives.
The early Soviets tried to avoid this, you know. I didn't know, they never implemented it. It was one of the guys like pre-Stalin that got purged. But they wanted to not have cities where everything was, but try to have like, you know, you have like one big industry, put that around and then build kind of a small city around it. But in order to have much more green space. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think the delineation between the urban and then the countryside is itself sort of a problematic thing, isn't it? Anyway, that's a side point. I've instantly.
No, it's interesting.
Yeah,
like you can go into this heavy, overplanned, artificial towns, and they often don't work. Right? They're completely planned from scratch towns. When they do work, it's because the government just forced people to live in there. They never got rid of it. They're never considered like beautiful or successful on their own. But what you have here in the Netherlands, I think, is because you have lots of places you cannot build on because of water and because of dredging. And also, because there's so many waterways, it's very hard to build routes and paths, especially for cars, because you'd have to build a lot of overwater bridges. So it's far easier to make walking paths. It's far easier to make cycling paths. That plus the flatness of the country means there's a different philosophy to a joined up way of moving around.
Yeah.
Not just your local area, but even a wider span. And because there's a huge housing crisis here, lots of people have come to move here, including myself. Housing density is very dense. Lots of people live in flats, lots of people live in apartments. You need very good thoroughfares for people to move around. And this isn't cars when you have a lot of people in one area. Cars don't make sense so much for cities.
No, it's taking loads of space.
They use up loads of space. And also, they cause traffic amongst themselves, and they make it harder for pedestrians and people trying to use the other methods of moving around to get their stuff done.
Well, that's the interesting thing, isn't it? Because a lot of the car discourse is based around inconvenience of like, if you did this, if you regulate this or restrict cars in this way, it's going to be inconvenient for car users. But the way cities are designed for cars inconveniences everyone else. Like it's that thing of like, in COVID where people were like we're closing a road. And it's like, well, you're closing a road to cars. You're opening it for everything else it can be used for.
Yeah, 100%. The cheapest way that people are trying to do public transport is by running buses along the same arteries that the car uses. But the buses will never defeat cars with mass adoption as long as buses just get caught in the same traffic. They're no better than a car. They cannot arrive anywhere faster. They're slower always because you're stopping at other people's stops. So the bus will never be mass adopted as an alternative to the car. And the things that you would have to build instead will necessarily disrupt cars because there'll be trams that run over the same roadways.
Water slides,
cannons, teleportation. These are the things the car people don't want you to know about. There's even just staying at home and imagining you've arrived at your destination.
It's very effective.
The UK tends not to regenerate very much.
No,
there's too much old shit. Yeah, there's just loads of things falling apart. The degree to which I see construction happening here is quite surprising. There's always something being built or fixed. Could be to do with bloody water again. But it reminds me of the UK. There's just so much that's just fucked and broken and... that, you just live in these cities that make sense for like horse and cart, going to the mill, coming back to my terrace house.
Right, that's right.
They do make sense for horses. But I'm not a horse.
No, you're not a horse, not yet.
I don't have one, don't even have access to one. I might have access to one, but I wouldn't be allowed to ride it or take it or touch it or even probably not allowed to look at it.
I like to think about this of like, what is a street for? On the one hand, like it's like, oh, it's for getting from A to B. Is what a lot of most people's. If you think of a street, they think, oh, it's like a means of transport. So even if they're not thinking about cars, which is the main means of transport of getting to A to B, they think, oh, it's for public transport or bikes or walking along. But like a street can be for much more than that. Like streets are like most of the public space that we have. So we should really think about what they're for, and many more things can be done with them than them just being a means of transport. Like they are where children play. They could be very similar to a park, and it could be a place that you hang out. It could be a place you ride your BMX and do tricks. Duels. You could have a duel on the road.
You could have a duel in them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Not everything has to be a game of Frogger. You could have danger from other pedestrians. That's what I want. That's my utopia. What does my head in about, like, not only does it just the noise, and obviously the cars run into our soft bodies and we die, which I'd say is probably the biggest arguments against them. Yeah, that's one of the worst things a car can do, is make contact with me at speed. Yeah.
Fucking SUVs where people can't even see. Terrifying.
The only place where cars aren't bothering you is inside a car. Right, it's the only place you're not hearing the noise. It's the only place where you're not having to watch out for them.
And they're also about isolating you from the world. They're about isolating you, and that's why cars do, like, give you neoliberalism, hyper-individualized brain rot, because once you're in a car, everyone else is the enemy. Yeah. Like cyclists are Satan. People trying to cross a street, bad. That, like, also other cars, they are a consumer product, and they are very, very expensive. And the car companies make most of their money from just debt, from credit, from lending to people to be able to afford these things. So it's all mixed up with capital in that way, but it's also mixed up with capital in the sense that cars are a factory for, I think cars make you right wing.
Oh, 100%. The deep ideology of simply being in a car cannot be overstated. Yeah. Like, we must have all been on journeys with people who, behind the steering wheel, they look out at the world with such critical eyes. They're always like, not only do they hate the other road users, but like, it's like they're like goggle boxing the world and they hate everything. Yeah, something about the fact that they're in the car and it externalizes the world because you're inside something.
Yeah.
You hate this guy because he's carrying a unicycle. You hate this teenager because they've got a coffee. You hate this new estate because you think people different to you live in there. You hate the primary school because they're teaching them all how to be drag queens. You hate Mackey's because one time you got a Happy Meal and it didn't have any gherkins on it. You're in the car, you're in control.
Yeah. And then you're not in control because you're often in traffic, which is comprised of you and other people like you.
No. The traffic is everyone else. I'm not the traffic.
But in your, you don't see that, but you are. Yeah. And then weird stuff as well, like people get irritated by like a pedestrian crossing because in their head they're like, oh, this is an inconvenience that exists. Like, look at this person who's pressed this button to make the car stop. That pedestrian crossing isn't there for the pedestrians. It's there for you as a car to funnel people into this one place so you don't have to be worrying about it. The pedestrian crossing, even though we're calling it pedestrian crossing, is something built and designed to make the roads better for cars, not people.
Yeah, but the idea that it's for the pedestrian, there's so much about all these crossings and stuff where they're not pedestrian friendly in the first place. Even where I grew up in Birmingham, I had to get, there's this massive, the Coventry Road goes from middle of Birmingham out to Coventry.
Yeah.
And I had to cross that all the time. And it is 2 lanes on either side, cars going very fast. And as a child, going across that when you know the speed of the car is terrifying. And my mom got hit by a car on that road when she was a child. And then I risked it regularly as an adult. Yeah, she got knocked completely off her feet and actually had amnesia. When the police found her, when the paramedics came to her, she didn't know who she was, where she lived. So very hard to...
Fucking hell.
Yeah. So I'm on this road being like, this road nearly killed my mom and I've got to cross it all the time. And like, that's what it is when you're a child. You've got all these veins going through a city, which every place in a city has been designed to get from A to B. And there isn't a place where it's just pleasant to exist. There's no place to arrive at. It's all been about getting somewhere else.
It's all been about cars, but it's been about cars because cars is capital, right? It's a consumer culture. The automobile industry has been like a massive part of capitalism, not just in the consumption of cars, but in the manufacture of cars. Cars in the automotive industry, and then the oil industry, which is obviously part of this whole machine. They're this sort of toxic nexus. So they've got lots and lots of money, and then that enables them to pressure states to help them And that's where, the idea of changing cities and changing urban planning to de-emphasize the car, of 15-minute cities and stuff like that, the resistance to this comes from the automotive lobby of that faction of capital. It would not surprise me if GB News was getting a shitload of, it probably has adverts for cars because loads of the adverts in general are for cars. But it wouldn't surprise me if they're getting a load of money from oil companies.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's all a big circle.
15-minute cities or smart cities. Sounds great in theory, doesn't it? Everything you want or need, just a 15-minute walk or bike ride away. Let's look a little closer.
What is 15-minute city? I hear you wondering, right? This is literally something straight out of a fucking dystopian movie plot, yeah? They're gonna divide cities and they're experimenting with this in Oxford right now. Go on the government website, give it a little Google, have a look. This is real fucking life. I'm not chatting shit, I'm not waffling. This is all literally being done right in front of your fucking eyes right now. You don't even know what's happening, right?
And it's basically to reduce the carbon footprint and emissions, and everything you need will have to be within 15 minutes of your house, and if you go outside this area, you'll be fined. So I didn't know the UK was turning into the fucking Hunger Games, and district to district travel will not be allowed, and it will be one district against the next, and it's going to be a fucking war zone.
I mentioned Hunger Games only slightly tongue-in-cheek.
Have you seen what's happening in Oxford, England right now? People are rioting because a smart city was imposed on them, despite the majority voting against it. Each resident will be fined for driving their normal route during peak hours. If they want to cross without a fine, then they have to take a ring road, which ends up being worse for carbon emissions, not better.
When you're locked into these neighbourhoods and you're only allowed within 15 minutes of your home address, the way that they're going to and are already controlling the conversation, and think back to COVID, think back to COVID, think back to COVID, they're creating fact checkers.
They're going to try to keep you within a 15-minute radius of your home, and they're starting to do that in places. Yeah, all of it's real. And in China, the social credit score system is 100% real and implemented.
I wonder what our obligation is.
And the World Economic Forum calls them smart cities, which seems great. Progressive urban designers. Your family will eat 0 amounts of meat and 0 amounts of dairy. Each person will be restricted to 2,500 calories a day. What? Each family member will only receive 3 new items of clothing per year. This is on the World Economic site. There will be 0 privately owned vehicles. I gotta tell you, this is the scariest stuff I have ever written. I mean, Utopians in 1984, that stuff couldn't be done 20 years ago. This is George Orwell on steroids.
They don't want us using cars. They've told us this. They want us to sell our cars. They want us to use our bikes. They want us to be in 15-minute cities, as they're called, where we just walk everywhere. We don't drive anywhere. We don't drive 45 minutes or beyond 15 minutes to see family and friends. We stop using fossil fuels, hydrocarbons, etc. We turn to wind and solar, and we work from home. And we use digital currency so they can track and watch everything that we do. That's what they want.
I've given you all the Absolute Zero document, and I hope you'll read it, because that coloured bit shows you what is to be achieved by 2030, and that means no flying out of the UK, no ships out of the UK, no cars at all, and no, all wood burners to be ripped out of every home and every gas appliance to be ripped out of every home by 2025. Now that is a government document.
But what we're already seeing in Oxford with the traffic time distance tracking that they're doing is people changing their behaviour, and that's the significant point that everybody's not paying attention to. They haven't even rolled it out fully, and people are changing their behaviour. I know I said I was going to do less of this content, but I can't fucking stop, because you need to hear the message.
I put up with a 15-minute city. I'm not going to go along with a digital ID. I'm not going to let them monitor my so-called carbon footprint.
Just about to head out and get a train, because I'm just so, environmentally eco-yar friendly, to join hopefully the thousands of other British people headed to Oxford to protest against the enforced 15-minute city plan that's going to be put onto Oxford.
And you're going to have to apply for a fucking permit right, a permit to leave your zone, right? It means if you want to go up to fucking Scotland to visit Auntie Susie, oh, you need a permit to do that. You can't drive too far away because climate change is happening. Right? You want to go down south and visit the fucking beach with Brighton for a day? Guess what, mate? You can't do it unless you've got a fucking permit. You're not allowed outside your fucking zone unless you've got a permit. What the fuck? What? Right, 15-minute cities. Let's talk about it some more because I've got hundreds of comments and DMs and angry people telling me that I'm some misinformation spreading conspiracy theorist. So let me just clarify something for you, because although I was a bit wrong, you were also a bit wrong. They're not, the permit thing only applies to people who drive cars, right? So again, I was kind of wrong, but you guys are not also entirely right, because the permits are going to be a thing, but only to people who go brum brum in their little cars, right? You can still get public transport, you can still walk, you can still cycle, because basically the whole point about 15-minute city is to reduce carbon emissions.
Yo, is this 15-minute city project actually, if you're going to charge people for walking across the street? I know it's supposed to be for driving, but what's to stop it from being walking?
You must now learn to stand on your rights, because they are being infringed upon. And if you think that this 15-minute city is a good idea, I want you to take me by the hand, because I will lead you through the streets of Africa, where the 15-minute cities were known as townships. And we are not taking your townships. We are free people. We have fought government for less than this. And we are taking back our streets.
Will the leader please set aside some time in this House for a debate on the international socialist concept of so-called 15-minute cities and 20-minute neighbourhoods? Ultra-low emission zones in their present form do untold economic damage to any city. However, the second step after these zones will take away personal freedoms as well. Sheffield is already on this journey, and I do not want Doncaster, which is also a Labour-run socialist council, to do the same. Low emission zones cost the taxpayer money, simple as. However, 15-minute cities will cost us our personal freedom, and that cannot be right.
How dare you steal my childhood and my future, and the future of all children by enslaving us in your crazy digital surveillance prison. We all know where this is leading. These are the first steps of a dystopian reality called 15-minute neighbourhoods. They believe they are better than us and masters over us. And until this problem is effectively dealt with, the tyranny will continue. Thank you.
Sean.
Hello.
Sean Morley.
Hello.
What's your experience of horses?
I haven't had a lot of hands-on experiences of horses. I'm still enough of a city boy that when I see a horse, I invariably go...
Horse can be in a city.
Yeah, normally like to police something, right?
Yeah, the most likely horse you will see in a city is cop.
Exactly. So when I've seen that kind of a horse, I'm normally on the other team. So I'm not trying to be that close to the horse. I'm just enough of a city boy that when I see a horse, I go, bloody hell, that's quite big, isn't it?
They are big, yeah.
They're quite big.
Big animal.
Why do I always underestimate the size of a horse and overestimate the size of a mole?
Oh, how big do you think a mole is?
I always think a mole would be the size of my fist, but it's really...
little.
It's more like half a pencil. Yeah, mad, isn't it? We've just got these, I think cartoons probably did all that. Bad proportions.
It's hard to draw a horse. Isn't that a famous thing? Hard to draw a horse. Animals are farther than wood. I tell you what, if we're talking about urban planning, I tell you what's not a good plan. Pouring liquid concrete onto a forest that you've done no prep work to.
Surely you want to dig up some of the trees, get the roots. There's going to be there's some streams and stuff that the owls drink from. It's going to be, I don't want to live there. Terrible. It's going to be a sinkhole.
Fucked. Yeah. What were they doing? Were they just trying to get rid of the animals?
Imagine you're the person that gets a mortgage on one of the houses in this new build, and it's completely subsiding into the mud, and there's an adder who hates you, and a fox who's conspiring against you, a kestrel that's dive bombing the window. But you can't get out, right? Once you've signed, you just can't get out.
negative equity.
I mean, negative equity. And there is an adder whispering to me when I'm asleep.
Problems just compound. But my point is, replace all cars. If you really want a car with a horse, bring back horses.
Are we going to have to bring back cobbles? Because I hate cobbles.
No, I don't think cobbles are related to horses. I don't think they're for horses. I think they're just the road technology that was there at the time. I think a horse can go on pretty much anything.
I just thought the cobbles were for horses. You're just saying we couldn't.
Why did you think that?
Well, because didn't the Romans build like some sick ass roads?
Well, yes, that was the. If they had tarmac, they'd have tarmacked it. They actually had concrete. Roman concrete is in many ways more advanced than contemporary.
But they discovered this year, didn't they? Discovered that Roman concrete can heal itself. It's like Wolverine, an aqueduct. That's like Wolverine. And then here we are walking around on the cobbles, twisting our ankle every few feet. And probably someone from Big Cobblestones going, oh, it's for the horses, it's for the horses.
Who's ever said that?
It's for the horses.
Just a little... for the horses, isn't it just old? Cobbles is just an old road technique.
They say it's for the horses. All the shoe shines are saying that to me. Oh, mister, it's for the horses.
I thought your shoes were shiny.
Oh, yeah, they're gleaming.
Yeah,
they catch the sun. I can absolutely daze someone.
Causing accidents.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking because there's things, like these like piecemeal government actions to try to reduce car ownership, where they're like a low emission zone, or we're going to stop selling this kind of car. It's like, well, you still want to sell stuff. It's all just a subsidy. You're saying, oh, this person can't use their diesel car. Really what you're doing is the state is given a subsidy and an incentive for you to purchase a new product, a different kind of car. How helpful is that? What we should really incentivize is return to horse.
The return to the horse. What would you say would be the advantage of the horse? How do you sell the horse to people?
What's the disadvantage? Think of a single disadvantage.
Massive dollops of shit.
Yep, great. Fertilizer.
Not for the concrete. You don't want just tomato plants growing between the cracks in the motorway.
Dobbs, people can scoop it. It's just created an employment scheme.
You're right. I think there's already more. Isn't there already an employment crisis that's going the other way? There aren't enough people to fulfill. Need more people to enter the workforce than currently can.
But that's bullshit jobs. This is literal horseshit job.
This is horseshit jobs,
So
David Graeber's horseshit jobs.
Everyone, about meaningful jobs. Because everyone
it does help.
Everyone I know who's got an allotment is always talking about, oh, I really wish there was more manure. I want fertilizer. They want horse shit.
Yeah.
They probably, maybe you wouldn't even have to pay people to do it. People who have allotments,
people
would
do it.
Would just want it, and there'd be so
David
much.
David Cameron's Big Society. We're all just grabbing the shit off the roads.
I've got to go to Aldi to get a £4.50 bag of compost. No, you don't. A horse has shat outside your house.
Yeah, you see a bunch of horses.
Yeah.
A bunch of boy racers taking their horses around the corner at speed, and they're shitting everywhere, and you're going, oh, quid's in.
Yeah. Any more disadvantages? You're stuck, aren't you?
That was going to be the main one.
Yeah.
I guess there's probably going to be loads of industries that come back, right? The horseshoe guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The horse food guys.
Farmers.
These are all different guys. Farmers pick up carrots. I'm talking about a horseshoe guy.
I think that'd be a much nicer vibe. You know, the sort of frightening machines they have by garages that are like car wash machines, and it's like a robot.
Yeah.
I think you would have to. I don't think you could put a horse through one of them. I think it'd bloody hate it.
Horse wouldn't take it. Yeah.
Car wash, like power wash, horrible. But brushing a horse, as long as you know what you're doing, be
I
safe.
think people would love to do it.
Yeah, but if you reconnect with nature,
at least this particular part of it, the horse bit.
The horse, reconnect with horses.
Reconnect with horse culture. And people love washing now. People love Power Wash Simulator.
It's mindfulness.
You could say, it's mindful. It's self-care to clean a horse for minimum wage.
I also think because a horse is a being, because a horse is has got
that's the best bit, isn't it?
That's the best bit.
That's the best bit.
People are attaching all this value to cars of oh, I like my cars. Yeah. But you like your horse has got. You'd actually have to have a relationship with your horse. And it's going to have a personality. I like the idea of a skittish horse.
Yeah, I've got a spooked horse.
You can't have a skittish Volvo.
Well, people would actually say that's a benefit of the Volvo.
Again, what are you on about?
You scared my Volvo and it's left. My Volvo's bolted.
Yeah.
I do like, because people are always, they personify their cars all the time. We got Knight Rider, we've got Pixar's cars. People love to think about the sentient car. Mate, that is called a horse.
Well, I think it's strange because I see people, if you talk about urban design, people go like, oh, look at this photo from 1902 of without cars, the streets were much nicer. But there's still these streets, so why have they built the streets? They built the streets wide for horses and carriages and such. And I feel like no one, apart from me right now, is emphasising return to horse. They've missed that bit.
And you'd need the pavements to be wider for parking your horse.
And also just a horse. I know a horse can go fast, and a horse can absolutely trample someone to death.
A car can do that as well.
A car can do that much worse. A horse can't go 70 mile an hour, and also has much less environmental impact.
And I think you could make it so you could take your horse on the train, and then you get best of both worlds.
Yeah.
The horse carriage.
Yeah, the horse carriage. It's that integration of public transport and individual transport, right? So it's like the equivalent of, I want to take my car into the city. Well, just use some sort of park and ride thing. But it would be mad to take a car onto a train. But horse, perfect.
It is the ideal middle ground between bike and car.
Exactly. It's even better than a bike. The bike, what's that you're putting on it? Putting some fucking oil. Where's that come from?
Oh, boo-hoo, mate. Is your chain come off?
Yeah.
My horse doesn't have a chain.
I'd love also to see teens doing like the driving test, the horse driving test, hazard perception test.
That would be really good. And then when as soon as they get their license, they're making the horse do a wheelie, which I guess is called rearing up.
But again, like some lads hooning round at like 2 a.m. That's annoying. But like clippity clop, clippity clop, clippity clop,
clippity clop. Sounds like a train, right? It's got this
sounds like a horse.
Comforting. It's like a train. All the best vehicles make this calming, put a baby to sleep style regular rhythm. Chugga 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 chugga, and then there's clippity clop, clippity clop. Really good.
Yeah, it's nice.
Real nice stuff.
Much easier as well to think about how powerful your horse is than a car. Oh, that's 97 horsepower. What about that?
Yeah.
One.
Well, no, because not all horses are the same. Well, horses aren't as strong as, I wouldn't even call it complex, just horses aren't as strong as each other.
What's the horse? What's the horsepower horse? Like there's a kilogram that they keep somewhere. Someone in Paris has got the kilogram. What's the horse?
Well, it's dead, isn't it? The original. Yeah, that horse has died.
Well, how do they
so
know?
We'll never know. There's probably a ye olde description of how powerful that horse was. Just a kind of like Victorian scrawling of, I observed my horse one day. It is mild of manner. It is calm of mood. And it can drag around 3 bags of grain for 1 mile before it tires and it refuses to listen to my orders. That is the horse. And sadly, we will all miss her.
MOTs, garages. When someone's like, your differential's gone, it's going to be £1,000. You can see what's wrong with the horse. If the guy says, this horse's leg is fucked. Yeah, I can see that.
This horse is currently too pregnant to ride.
That's another thing.
You shouldn't ride the horse when it's this far into term.
Car can't give you another horse. Car can't give birth to a car.
That's true, actually, because once your family's got a couple of horses, conceivably, as long as you can sort of also build a ranch and places to rear this horse. And
no, each street's got a stable, so you don't need your own thing.
You take it to the local, because obviously we're going to get rid of all the garages. Yeah, so you just take it down to the local stable and say, I'll pick this up again in 3 years.
No, you look
after this foal for 3 years.
Each street has its own.
That'll cost you $3,000.
Instead of car parks, you've got a nice meadow, and each street has a stable instead of, because you can't just keep it tied outside your house; it'll get cold.
Well, it'll get cold in the meadow. The meadow's not warm.
Well, yes, different. They're different. It's not. Did you hear me say stable after that?
Yeah, you covered your back.
Also, there's little jumpers. You've never seen them jumpers they put on horses.
That's true. I don't like animals in clothes. Well,
even if they're cold, even if they're chilly.
They're designed for it. They're made for that.
What are you designed for?
Indoors, house, jumper on.
You're designed for that.
I'm designed for duvet and a hat.
Horse, you in?
Replace me with a horse. You'd get more done. Did you know that in the United Kingdom, it is against the law to make the law? You know the law?
No.
You heard of this? What are you, a freeman of the land? There's a law that will apply to you and everyone else.
Oh, right.
Whether you like it or not. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
You have to swim a couple of miles out and you're good. Hop into Sealand and you can do what you like. Shoot a gun, play a card.
Does this mean Judge Dredd's real as well?
He's real in Judge Dredd's a concept you can think about.
Right.
Judge Dredd.
Okay,
That's
but Judge
real.
Dredd's not going to come for me.
Judge Dredd will not come for you now.
Just needed to check.
No, it's always good to know.
What's the law saying?
In the United Kingdom, it is illegal to make a motorway services too exciting.
In case people want to move there.
In case people want to visit it.
Right, because it should only be a transient experience.
100%. And so there haven't been any like massive fines handed down, but there was a motorway services that held like a 50th birthday event, and it was considered too exciting because people might go.
Police go in.
The police didn't go in. I think they were just
shut it
fined.
down. Oh, right, okay.
What's all this? What's all this? People are having fun. No, you're supposed to have
This is
an
against the
overpriced
law.
You're in here for the lose, then you get an overpriced M&S sandwich, and then you're out. Because they don't want people clogging up the motorways just to go to the services. That's why you couldn't put like a cinema in there, or you couldn't put in a line dancing event.
Yeah.
Because people be like, guess we'll have to go on the motorway so we can line dance with our friends.
At Lancaster Services, I saw a shit in a urinal.
Okay, that's really bad.
But how and why? Do you know what I mean? Like how it was a hard shit. So how was someone shat in a urinal?
When you say hard shit, are we talking Bristol Stool Chart stuff?
Yeah, like a solid shit in a urinal. That is, I think of services. I think that haunts me.
It could be someone very drunk.
But there are toilets. There's like
but the toilets
15. It wasn't busy.
I mean, I don't know the toilets you're talking about, but normally the urinals are
Lancaster
visible before the
Services.
toilets. Well, I'm not
You
going
go
there,
in.
and I haven't
You go
been
in.
there.
On the left-hand side, there's a wall of urinals. On the right-hand side, there's a wall of toilet cubicles. Like as many as each other.
But what if
they've shat in the middle urinal? Did they do it in the urinal? Did they do it in a cubicle, pick it up and put it in the urinal? How did it get there?
I think someone could have had the poo on them and they came here to deposit it.
And they just panicked. They didn't deposit it.
They panicked.
Okay, yeah.
They panicked,
They've shat in their hand somewhere.
Yeah, they shat on the road.
Why wouldn't you just leave it though?
What, on the road? It'll attract mice and then the mice will get run over.
Mice want human shit. What are you talking about?
Is it just flies that eat shit?
Flies. I don't know. Do they eat the shit? What's a dung beetle doing with shit?
Rolling it. I think it's for living in.
Do they lay eggs in it or something?
Yeah, and live in it. They roll it into an orb and they live in it.
Motorway services. Boring. They happen by law.
By law, you can't make them interesting. If you've ever had fun there, you're in kind of a legal grey area.
I've never had fun at services.
Yeah, and they've done a remarkable job of making them be like that.
What about T-Bay? It's got a pond, it's got ducks.
But you wouldn't go for the pond or ducks. Do you know, it's this weird threshold of like, you've got to walk around it and be like, would I come here for this? And you have to be like, no. A tick. Green badge of approval.
Yeah,
this place sucks.
But don't they just inevitably suck? Could you, if you were to design a pleasant services, I don't think you could. It would, once it becomes pleasant, it almost stops being a motorway service station.
Well, a motorway service station is one just by virtue of being on the side of the motorway and offering food and fuel. You could make it lovely if you put your mind to it.
How?
You could turn it into some kind of Victorian folly. It could have a hedge maze. It could have a little hermit who lives in there. It could have puzzles. It could have LARPing. It could have bingo tournament. It could have a very friendly CEO who's always laughing. You can never find him. I'm coming up with ideas. Left, right, and centre. It's easy.
Like puzzles and mysteries.
I'm thinking, what would I go to?
Yeah, I like it.
I want to go to a little grove, full of mysterious little guys and one enemy.
I would make the two services and enemies because like sometimes there's a service on one side and a service on the other side. I would create law where they're perhaps at war with one another.
Yeah, and you as the customer can go to one to help it, or you can go to the other one to hurt. You can see in both how well they're each doing. And there's a chance one of them can win. And then you come back the other time, the other one's just a crater to smoke it.
Yeah. They're really
just a smokestack. And all the employees who used to work there just crying and outside.
And then all the people southbound on the M1 are fuming because they can't go to the toilet.
Yeah, because someone's finally won the war, I've got to shit myself and then leave that in a urinal.
Oh shit, now I've got to leave that in the edit. Mandatory Redistribution Party was created and produced by Sean Morley and Jack Lewis Evans. The title theme was created by Ella Jean with additional music in this episode from Sean Morley. Thank you so much for listening, and special thanks to those of you who support our work by sharing this episode on social media or supporting us at patreon.com/mandatory redistribution party, where you can find extra stuff. Hope you're doing okay, friends. Stay safe out there.